All right, now so here's a child. This is a painful but beautiful photograph. It won the Pulitzer Prize. This child thinks he's playing, but we can read something else is going on, right? And what I'm going to use this as a segue to the fact that his tonal, his heart and his mind, his body and his soul are not in alignment, and that this child is in fact suffering, but he thinks he's just playing around. And we'll just start from here, and this will introduce us to the notion of alignment. But alignment refers to reaching a point where the heart, mind, body, and soul are pointed in the same direction, exactly the same direction. Most of us, our heart's going this way, our mind's going this way, and God knows what we're doing with our body. But at any rate, the point is that our heart and our minds are going different ways. Right? How many here have perfect alignment of their heart, mind, body, and soul? Right. If you do have perfect alignment, you end up being Buddha or Jesus or something like that. So a brief segue. I wanted to cover quite a bit because there's quite a varied group of folks here, into children and public service systems in general, and just a few observations of mine over the decades. The first one is this. These are hospitalizations and deaths classified by intent among residents under age 25 in Santa Clara County. This data is a little bit outdated, but the principle is very much still the same. Now, you can pick up the paper any day and read about this gang thing or that gang thing and this homicide thing and this homicide thing, and it's all over the news, etc. But if you look at the rates of death, this is not attempts, these are not gestures, this is not acting out or whatever. If you look at deaths, we have, yes, 21.2% from homicide, but 16.7% from suicide. But we don't hear anything about that. So we have actually a major epidemic, and if you look at the rates of attempted suicide among, I think it's sophomores and juniors in Santa Clara County, it's, the last I looked, I think it was around between 8 and 12% on any given year. And that's public health data, by the way, not mental health data. So it's a major issue that we don't pay much attention to. And if you look at what we pay for crime prevention compared to what we pay for mental health intervention, I think the difference becomes apparent, and why I'm bringing it up becomes clear. So this is a kind of scenario that I used to have to deal with all the time, and still occasionally do. This kind of slice like this is lethal. This kid's not trying to get attention. This kid is trying to kill himself. But since we don't have the psychiatric or mental health or the models, even the models to deal with these issues in children, or this is a society that cares enough to even try, really, we end up putting these kids in juvenile detention facilities. And the LA County Jail, for example, is the largest psychiatric facility in the world. And they have, so if you're mentally ill and you're poor and you're disenfranchised and you're in California to a large extent, but also Texas and New York and the rest of the country, some exceptions, you end up in the juvenile justice system, which has become our mental health system. And so fully 10 to 20% of these kids have, and that's conservative, have treatable, biologically based disorders of the brain that are genetically transmitted in part, that go undiagnosed and untreated, and instead what we do is we put them in cages with other kids. It's just, if you think about another species doing this to its own young, or if we look back from 100 years, we're going to go, what were we thinking? How could we do that to our own children? I mean, it's insane. It is insane. And I guess I'm here, a psychiatrist, telling you society is insane when it comes to the way we treat some of our kids. So if we look at jailing, it's not just the kids. This is more recent data, but still a bit outdated. If you look at the United States, we incarcerate about 850, 860 per 100,000. Next is Russia. They're down a little bit over 600. And then it drops down to the next highest is South Africa. And if you look at Europe, it's 150, Canada 100, Australia, Japan, less than 100. We are off the charts. We're competing with, and Russia's gone down, by the way, since then. So this is from Scientific American. And if you break it down by ethnicity per 100,000, you have 330 white, Caucasian, which is still triple Europe and other places. But Latinos is 1,070, so it's off the chart, off that scale. And then African Americans, 2,250. It's not even in this building. The rates of incarceration are, you can use whatever word you want to use. I don't want to go there. I might say the wrong thing, but that's the fact. And then what happens is that these kids, they're going back to the kids, when they get transferred to adult prisons, guess what happens? They turn into adult criminals. And we wonder why we spend so much in California on our penal system. So here's a little quote from W.H. Auden, because this is not rocket science. This is not even psychiatry. This is not anything, really. Simple common sense. I and the public know what all school children learn. Those to whom evil is done do evil in return. Not that complex. And so if we abuse our kids, neglect our kids, if we act in an evil way towards our kids, they're going to turn around and do it to somebody else. This I point out because it just came out last summer. We did an outcome study from the Juvenile Mental Health Court in Santa Clara. There's a way to divert these kids, the mentally ill kids, out of the juvenile justice system and into some more rational form of intervention.
We as juvenile court judges have a moral and legal obligation to serve the children who come before our court, not only to hold them accountable for their delinquent acts, but also to determine what it is that got them in this situation and how we can stabilize their lives to protect the community and make them competent young people, people who will later go on to become productive citizens.
From a public safety point of view, the worst thing you can do to a child who's on the borderline between becoming a delinquent and a criminal or not is lump them all together with serious delinquents and criminals. So from a public safety point of view, what you want to do is decrease recidivism. For mentally ill offenders, the way you do that is by treating the underlying cause of their disordered behaviors. Bringing the family in on this is absolutely essential. They need support and they need help supporting their child. The goal is to have a child who's able to function in school and in society and with their family. It is crises with the family that oftentimes trigger involvement with the court. In any case, in the final analysis, this is not just a child's issue, it's a family's issue, as any parent can attest. And so it's critical to bring the family on board, and they are most often very, very grateful that a system that has gotten a reputation, unfortunately, for being insensitive, indifferent, and ineffective, has actually paused long enough to take the time to do the right thing by their child. This model could be replicated, it could be modified, or it could be, it could be adjusted to the needs of any particular jurisdiction. The Office of Child Development, which is an affiliate of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, has technical assistance available pro bono to any jurisdiction that requires it.